Well, welcome back to another episode of Parker's Pensies. This is a podcast where we explore thoughts in philosophy, theology, nature, and life. I love thinking about cool stuff, so come think with me. Today, I have another special guest with me, Mike DeVito. Mike is a former NFL player. He played with the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs, and he played from 2007, I think, to 2016 when he retired. And this is an awesome dude. I'm really excited to get into it with him because now he's into philosophy and theology. And so two things you don't really expect to go together, an NFL player and a philosopher. And so I'm stoked to get into it. So let's just jump right in. Mike, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Parker, thanks for having me here, brother. I really appreciate it. Man, I'll tell you what, I would do anything to get that, to be able to pull off that mustache, man. I would do anything.
Oh, man.
You
I
look
appreciate
great,
that.
brother.
I appreciate that. Well, dude, so my friends at home are probably growing up huge sports nerds. I work for a sports ministry called Athletes in Action. So all my listeners from those two different groups are going to know you from your NFL career, and they're going to make fun of me because I found out about you through your philosophy career and through your YouTube channel, Furthering Christendom, which you do with Dr. Tyler McNabb, who's been on the podcast before. And so I started looking into you and like, oh, this guy's got some interesting stuff to say. And then saw, oh, he was in the NFL. Oh, snap. And all my friends at home were like, yeah, dude, it's Mike DeVito. Like, come on, don't embarrass us here. We're coming at it from a different angle here.
I don't know if I just hit my head the right way when I was playing and it knocked something loose, but all of a sudden I was like, geez, I want to study philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but you're right. Talk about two worlds that couldn't seem to be further apart with football and philosophy.
Yeah.
But I'm blessed to be a part of both of them. I really, like you, I enjoy them both so much.
Yeah, man. So I listened to some of I listened to your testimony from Furthering Christendom, and you'd mentioned that you became a believer, and then just started reading books, and you just had this like appetite for books. Was that before your NFL career or during? When did that take place?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it was right at the beginning of my NFL career. So it's like God has perfect timing. But I became a Christian in 2006, literally 4 months before I left to go into the NFL in 2007. Okay. If you want to get into that story, we can. But yeah, it was right away that I all of a sudden had this interest in reading, obviously, the Bible, but theology. I wanted to get deeper into the things of God and theological things, and what ended up turning out to be apologetics and philosophy and all that stuff later on. Mm-hmm. But I knew that had to be a God thing, because I think prior to me coming to or me becoming a Christian, I think I hadn't read a book front to back in my entire life. I mean, that says something about the state education system, maybe, that you can make it all the way through without reading a book. Right. I mean, I don't even think I read a Goosebumps book from front to back. So, so I knew it had to be a God thing, that all of a sudden I wanted to read and read heady, deep stuff. And so I pursued that and stayed on that path, and it's ended up where it is now.
Man, I had the same a very similar experience when I was in college, and through an Athletes in Action summer camp, God just got a hold of my life and started reading books for the first time. Like you said, I was a B student. I was smart enough to not try and get B's, but if I couldn't get A's unless I tried super duper hard. So I said, screw it, I'll just get B's. And so I'll skim through books, and I never read a single book. When I first started reading books my junior year of college, I would fall asleep because my brain just was not used to reading. And so I'd wake up, I'd get 3 pages in, fall asleep, and I'd have to like drag myself, into reading that 4th page, which is just so crazy. And again, the state system that I could make it through without finishing a full book. But yeah, that just voracious appetite. I want to know more. It wasn't like I want to be smarter than everyone. It was like, I should know this stuff. I want to know it. So with you, right, like, how did that look? So you became a Christian, you start reading, and then you're right into the NFL. When are you reading books, like on the bus, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, in my downtime on the bus, if we're traveling, Saturday, if you're playing a game that's within, a relatively close distance, say the flight is only 2 or 3 hours, you leave the Saturday before a game. When I was in New York, we would leave the Friday night before a game if we had to play on the West Coast. So you had 2 nights on the road. And so, yeah, flights, travel, all this stuff. I had plenty of time to read. I didn't have kids at the time. And so my all time reading, yeah, a lot of time in the Bible. And then a lot of time with, the Francis Chans, and I'm blanking on some of the names now.
Were you into like John Piper stuff, or
Piper stuff? Yeah. So not totally academic. It was still sort of lay level, being able to grasp some of the concepts, but more than just your basic stuff.
Yeah.
And so and then it snowballed from there. And then it was in 2009 that somebody, it was actually the chaplain for the New York Jets, who's still the chaplain now, Adam Burt. He actually played 14 years in the NHL. And him and I became really close, and he gave me a book by Timothy Keller called The Reason for God. And I read that book, and I was just like, wow, whatever he's doing in this book, this is what I want to be doing. So my passion shifted from theology to apologetics at that point, right in the middle of my career. And I knew after reading that book that not only was that what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study, but that when I got done with football, that's what I was going to go back to school to study, was apologetics. And so I was really lucky to have that and find that in the middle of my career, because a lot of guys flounder when they retire from football. It's hard to transition. It's hard to give up the game. And so to have that path laid out, that I knew, okay, as soon as I get done, I'm going right back to school to study this, was really helpful transitioning out of football. But so it started off with sort of lay-level theology in the Bible, and then morphed into apologetics. And then as I started my academic career, became more and more philosophy of religion, and philosophy of what I'm doing now.
Dude, that's awesome. So I had a similar path through the Francis Chans. I think, I forgot the book. The red book, something about love, Francis Chan's book. Yeah. Crazy Love, something like that. Yeah. And that started with some C.S. Lewis stuff, but I instantly got into apologetics because some of my roommates on the wrestling team would just, bro, why do you believe this? Why do you believe that? Well, why do you believe that? Well, why do you go to church? What's up with that? And all these questions. I grew up in a Christian home, but I don't think I was actually a Christian until my junior year of college, when I fully surrendered to the Lord. And so I was just embarrassed too, where I'm like, I should know this stuff to be able to help these dudes, or at least answer the questions for myself. So I started in apologetics, then moved to theology, seeing I actually need to know the doctrines behind these things. Yeah. And then from there I thought, well, I need to be able to talk about philosophically about these doctrines as well. And so then I started moving more into philosophy as well. But dude, that's so cool that God gave you this next path, because I can imagine, your whole life, for me it was wrestling, for you it was football. That's you did it. You accomplished your dreams. You played for the Jets. Wasn't that your dream growing up?
Yeah, it was. It was so cool, Parker. I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. My family's from Brooklyn. My entire family's from New York, the New York area, New York City area. And so I grew up a Jets fan. But I grew up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. My dad moved us up to Cape Cod when I was 2 or 3 years old. And so I grew up in the middle of Patriots country in New England, in Massachusetts, but being a Jets fan. And so I've been heckled for being a Jets fan my whole life. But then I had an opportunity to actually sign with them in 2007. And it was just totally, like you said, a dream come true. And so not only now do I get to go back to New York, where my family is there, and I'm having 100 people show up to every game to watch me play, but I'm also I also have the opportunity to play for the team that I grew up rooting for, and I go into the locker room, and I'm in there with guys that I was I was watching at the high school, as a high school kid, Ed Pennington, the Shawn Ellises, and all these superstars. I'm just like, wow, not only is this the NFL, but this is the team that I idolize. These are the guys that I idolized. So yeah, that's such an incredible, something I'm really fortunate to have had that opportunity. Not too many people get to say that. And then 2 years later, to have my best friend from Maine, who actually brought me to Christ, Matt Mulligan, come and play for the Jets with me, and we played there 3 years together. So have your best friend from a small school come play with you on the team that you grew up rooting for.
Man.
It just was, you just see the hand of God in all of it. And so I was incredibly lucky and blessed to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, so what was that like for you two? Were there other like Christians on the team? Did you guys do like a Bible study? Did you guys meet with the chaplain? Like, what did that look like to have you and your best friend both be Christians on the team there?
Yeah. And so there are probably on each team that I've been on over my 9 years, there are probably about 10 to 15 Christians on a roster of maybe 63 guys.
Okay.
So when I say 10 to 15 Christians, there are a lot of guys that I think believe that God exists and would do the prayer before the game and the prayer after game. You have the majority of guys doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, the Bible studies, the midweek Bible studies, the couple studies that were run every week. I mean, throughout the week, the chaplain, normally the team chaplain, will put on a bunch of different events for guys because obviously you can't get to church on Sunday.
Right.
And so it's important to supplement in all those things during the week. And so we'd have a couple study on Tuesday night. We'd have a Bible study at the facility on Wednesdays. And then the night before every game, Saturday night before every game, we'd have a chaplain service at the hotel, whether it be at home or away. And so if it's at home, our team chaplain would do it. If it was away, we would have an away chaplain come to the hotel and give us a sermon. And so it really was a vibrant spiritual life, spiritual routine, which was so necessary during the NFL season because there's so many highs and so many lows, and it can just can get a hold of you, especially if you don't have a strong spiritual workout going on. And so yeah, that was what it looked like. And so yeah, about 10 or 15 guys and some really incredible leaders, guys that I've had the opportunity to be in chapels and spend time with Tim Tebow and guys like that, guys who have incredible faith who you see on TV who really live it out. And I had an opportunity to fellowship and be a part of teams with those guys who led the team spiritually. And so I learned and grew a lot from that as a Christian and as a person. And I still am really close with a lot of those guys today. Still end up talking to those guys and fellowshipping with those guys. And so, yeah, that's the thing you miss the most. The thing that I miss the most with football, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but you miss the locker room. You miss the guys, and I especially miss those guys that I was doing my Christian life with. It's hard to cultivate those relationships outside of the locker room. The guys going through the same things and dealing with the same issues, and so I miss that a lot. I miss those times a lot. But yeah, no, it was. But missing it speaks to how much I loved it and how important it was. And so I'm grateful, really grateful for those times and for those guys.
Yeah, man, the similar thing with wrestling. Like some of my best friends, especially the dudes who are going to Athletes in Action with me, confessing sins. Man, that was the first time I ever saw like a dude that I look up to, that I respect, living out the Christian life. Because I grew up in Lombard, Illinois, which is right. We went to church in Wheaton, and I had this bad idea of Christians, that Christians were like Ned Flanders, right? And we're tucking in our sweater vests, and we leave our sin at the door. We don't talk about that. And then I go to Athletes in Action Bible study at Northern Illinois. And these dudes are like confessing their sin. They're talking about like porn and all sorts of stuff, like asking for accountability. And it was crazy. It was like, oh, this is actually what Christian life is like. Yeah. We're like admitting and we're helping each other and giving each other our Facebook passwords to check in our inboxes and make sure like nothing's up. And it was awesome. And then you get that for like a couple of years, and then God just sends you out all over the country. And you're like, but God, let me just bring that back. He's like, no, that was a time for you guys to grow. And now you're going out and you got Facebook still, or Twitter or whatever to keep up. But I'm super encouraged by what he's doing in your life, because man, you had this dream, you accomplished it. And then I could imagine for a lot of people, after you accomplish that dream, it's like, well, what now? I don't have any, and you have this new path to follow in philosophy of religion. I want to jump to some of the work that you're doing in there, but first, I would like to kind of recount that your testimony there. Like, how'd you become a Christian?
Yeah. So it was my it began actually my junior year in college. I had a friend that I really looked up to and admired. I mean, this guy embodied the football player. Like when you think tough football player, this was my mentor, right? So this guy
what position was he?
He was a defensive lineman, so he played the same position in Maine.
Nice.
He was, 6'5", 310 pounds. He had the mohawk tattooed all over him. just like, I want to be like this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember just a tragic story. He had gotten mixed up with some wrong people, and he was shot and killed at 24 years old. And so I remember going to his funeral and going up to his casket at 24 years old and saying, wow, you know, it was one of the most profound experiences in my life to see how fast it can end, right? 24-year-old not supposed to be in a casket, especially somebody like that who was this mighty man who I looked up to.
Yeah.
And so that really sparked my thinking about more existential things and what happens after death and what is this life all about. And so it was really God using a tragic moment to turn it into something beautiful. And so I brought up, and now fast forward a year later, I'm still searching and going through things and looking. And I talk about my best friend, Matt Mulligan, who played tight end at Maine with me. We lived together, and he saw that I was searching, and so he brought me to church with him. And he had been going to church his whole life, and so he said, "Okay, you know, I think I got what you're looking for." And he said, "But look, I'm going to preface this. With, you know, I'm going to give you a little background. I go to a Pentecostal church, right? So he went to an old school Pentecostal church up here in northern Maine, and he's like, look, here's how things go down. You're going to see, you know, people be speaking in tongues, and they might be running around the pews, and it gets a little crazy." And I'm like, I got to go just to see that. Like, I'm going not because I'm like, not because of any other reason. Then that's just not my idea of church. Like, people go up and they stand in the pew and they sit in the pew and then they kneel, and like, this is crazy. I got to see this. Sounds like a circus. And so I go to church with him, and what do you know? It's exactly what he says. I mean, people are just going nuts and speaking in tongues. And at the end of service, I don't know if you've ever been to one of these churches, but you do an altar call where you basically take all the madness that's going on around the church and condense it into the front. And so the pastor's making an altar call, and I'm standing in my pew, and I'm like, I'm not going up there. This is totally insane. I can't do it. And yet they are not taking no for an answer, right? The elders and the leadership, my friends, they're not.
Well, I can imagine you probably stuck out a little bit too.
Yeah, oh, they knew. Yeah, they knew.
6'3" and
the 320-pound meat back sitting there. So finally I give in to the peer pressure and I go up front. And I just remember putting my head down and saying, Lord, if you exist, just please get me out of here as fast as possible, because this is just so awkward. But then I remember the pastor and the assistant pastor came over, and they just sort of put their hands on me and started praying. And it was like, Parker, it was like a jolt of electricity through my body. Right? It was like all of a sudden somebody flipped the light switch on. It was like, oh wow, no, this is right. This is what it is. This is real. This is where I'm supposed to be. And really, it's not. And I don't mean that figuratively. It was really a literal instant switch being turned on, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it was that night that I said, okay, yeah, Jesus, I submit. Like, I believe you exist. I believe this is real. I mean, it was just an overwhelming religious experience. And that was, again, four months before I left to go to the NFL.
Wow.
And so it was perfect timing, again, because the NFL just throws so much at you, especially being a 22-year-old kid. Now you're in there with the big guys. Having that foundation, even as new as it was, right? Having that foundation, having that church network outside of work, having my best friend and other people to fall back on when things are tough, and then to go into a locker room and to meet the Christian leadership in the locker room and learn from those guys and sort of break down some of the stereotypes that you were talking about, right?
Right.
The Ned Flanders. In an NFL locker room, you learn that stereotype gets thrown out the window. Yeah. And so it was really perfect timing. And so that was, and then I've been on that path, sometimes better, sometimes not as good.
Well, so you were saved then, or you gave your life to Christ. There's so many different ways to say it.
I know. You're really careful, right? When you start studying philosophy, you're like, dude, right, how do I say this now? Like,
that's so true. and all the denominations behind it. So there's the theology and the philosophy there too. So whatever happened, you became a Christian, you gave your life to Christ, all this stuff. At a Pentecostal church, did you continue going? Do you consider yourself Pentecostal then, or?
Not so much anymore. I mean, I guess there are a lot of things about me that I still think. There are a lot of things about the Pentecostal church that I still agree with, right? So I think the gifts of the Spirit are real. Again, I've had that experience. It's hard for me to see how that's not real.
Uh-huh.
But I have, yeah, I mean, this could be a long talk. Obviously, I'm friends with Tyler McNabb, and so really close with him. And so he's laying out the case for Catholicism. And there are some things, I was very against the church tradition, the idea of church tradition as a sort of maybe not authority, but something to inform my Christian beliefs and help me to understand what the church has long believed and what is correct and what's not correct. And so I'm coming, I guess all that to say, I'm coming more back towards a more traditional understanding of the church versus sort of this low church. And when I say low church, I don't mean bad. I just mean, the less formal, the less orthodox services of like a non-denominational or Pentecostal service. And so obviously a lot there, but I'm sort of a free agent right now. It's still, Parker, it's hard to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Not get your beliefs challenged, right? And if things aren't secure, they have no chance. And so there are a lot of things that I held to that I'm looking at now, and I'm thinking, I think that was wrong. Within Christianity, obviously I don't think Christianity is wrong, but there are a lot of beliefs that I held to that I don't think were right. So still changing my thought process there and trying to find a home. I'm not a very good theologian. That's why I like philosophy a lot better. Because philosophy, you could be in on something 60-40, right? You're like, all right, yeah, maybe. Yeah. But like in theology, you can't do that. It's like you're either in or you're out.
Right.
So I'm not as good with theological things.
No, dude, I definitely hear you on that, and I definitely affirm how tricky it is. And just being, I'm a current student at TEDS Trinity up here in Deerfield, Illinois, and just learn to say I disagree with someone. I could say it to another student, and because I've read a lot and whatever, like I disagree with this, and then thinking in my head like, oh, you know what, like Tom McCall would destroy me if he were here right now. And it's just thinking through the different positions and being like, I do believe this stuff, but I also can affirm like there are people way smarter than me who know the Bible way better who completely disagree with me on this.
Oh, Parker, I've had those same experiences. I did when I was at Houston Baptist University. I did a class with Tyler McNabb. It was an independent study in epistemology. One of the first things we studied was radical skepticism, and this was in 2016, 2017. I still can't get over the fact that we probably can't know that we're not in a brain vat. Like, I'm still like all of this going on. I'm like, you know what? But radical skepticism still. You know what I mean? Like, it's still, like, I don't know if we can get past that. Like, I don't know if we have a good answer for that. So, no, I'm with you. I've had those same experiences where you're just like, somebody could tear up your worldview in an instant, so it's humbling. That's what I like about philosophy and sports. Like you like wrestling, football. It reminds me a lot of jujitsu, right? Yeah. It's a competitive thing, and it's humbling, right? You get in, you get going, and you think you know something, and then somebody just wrecks your world. It's like you're on the field and you think you're good to go, and somebody just pops you out. Welcome to the NFL moment. I've had that so many times with philosophy, and that's what really attracts me about it. I love it for that reason.
Yeah, it's same. It's maybe like a little bit of like masochistic because it's like I just keep getting beat down, and I think exactly what you said. Okay, I'm onto something, dude, and I picked it out. I found it in Donald Davidson. I found it in this person, and I'm ready to go with it. And then one of my friends who's further along than me is like, yeah, nah, because of this, and this. You're like, dude, don't say that. Just stop.
Can I have it for a couple minutes?
Right.
A little bit before you take it away from me?
Yeah. Okay, so you're in the fast forward a little bit. You're in the NFL. You're studying kind of the popular level theology, and then going in deeper. Then to go to Houston Baptist, I think you studied philosophical apologetics there. Is that the? Oh well, so why apologetics? I remember you said just a couple minutes ago, you said reason for God, but were you interacting with skeptics and non-believers, or what made apologetics so enticing for you?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to what I just said. It reminded me of football, right? Apologetics
Okay.
is, the word is defense, right? And
Right.
so, that's what I played defense on when I was playing football. And so, it reminded me a lot of what I was doing. It was competitive. You engaged in it. And this is really the truth. Unlike theology, it wasn't as the conversations didn't get as heated, right? I mean, even with my non-believing friends, the conversations didn't get nearly as heated as they did when I'm debating, whether Arminian or Calvinism is true. Those
Right.
conversations, people are ready to go to blows over that.
Yeah.
So it attracted me more in that way. But then it was like you said, it was good to have an answer for questions, right? It was good to have. I had family members who were skeptics, guys in the locker room who might have been skeptical, and even not just, maybe just ethical issues,
Right.
political issues, things like that. I mean, apologetics gives you a lot of different tools, and so it was nice to have those answers. Right? It was nice to be able to respond to objections and have reasons behind what you believe, and that foundation you're building more on that support. And so it started out with Timmy Keller's Reason for God, and then I went to a church conference in North Carolina. Actually, went down to speak to an Athletes in Action group down there.
Oh, nice.
Went to a church conference, and they had an apologetics like seminar, break-off session. And the teacher at the time told us about William Lane Craig. He said, "Listen, if you want to learn about apologetics, you gotta come across William Lane Craig." He's like, "Go on YouTube, Google him, just watch him put a whooping on all these atheists."
Yeah.
And so I go on YouTube and I type him in, and I'm watching him. And now this is combat, right? You watch those debates, and that reminded me so much of football, and it was just exhilarating to watch him go out there and just smoking everybody.
Yeah.
And from then on out, it was like, all right, I'm in. Everything William Lane Craig has written, even if I don't understand it, this is what I'm doing. So he became a hero of mine, and then I just, tried to follow in his footsteps ever since.
No, that's fantastic. So I came in, apologetics coming in through Van Tillian kind of camp. I know Tyler had a similar thing, and then going into Reformed theology and then from that perspective, William and Craig, dude, no way, man. He talked about probability and God. No, you can't do that. And so then I kind of came full circle, reading more of his deeper level philosophical articles and treatises and like books and stuff, and I got a better appreciation for him as I started learning philosophy more and realizing like I'm judging him with theology standards, which, like you said, man, you're either in or you're not. To say that God probably exists is so inappropriate because we don't do that on a Sunday morning when we're singing, right? It's just wrong. And then seeing the context that he's in when he's debating someone and they're talking probabilities. And so for him to say the actual probability he gave is way higher, it's like scary for other people to say, And so then seeing him as an example, even though I disagree with some of the stuff, and it's so scary to even say I disagree with him, because if he came on right now, he would just destroy, eat my lunch completely. But seeing him as this model of someone who is a philosopher, theologian, and apologist, and he's just the gold standard of it. Like he does such a fantastic job of it.
Yeah, I mean, he really has changed the game. I mean, he has brought up, starting with Plantinga and Swinburne, and then Craig really kicking it through the door, especially with all the social media stuff and the YouTube stuff and all the stuff that it's accessible from what he's done, via YouTube and things like that. They've raised up a generation of apologists and philosophers, Christian apologists, Christian philosophers, that I don't think ever would have been here without them, without him. Yeah. And so, he really has changed the game. And there's so many people I come across with the same sort of testimonies, right? Just like you said, you hear people's, you hear your story, you hear my story. Like, I came across William Lane Craig, and oh my goodness, everything was changed. I'm just like, wow, that's the best. And I need to dig deeper, and I need to learn more. And so I think that's a massive win for the kingdom, right? That's a massive win for the body of Christ to have more and more Christians who are intellectually mature, who can deal with the issues, who can address the objections, who can give reasons for their faith. That's incredibly powerful, and I've seen it in my own life, my own testimony. And again, it goes back to Plantinga and Swinburne and Craig and all those guys have done to sort of revitalize the apologetics movement and really bring it to the forefront and get so many people interested in it and make it accessible to so many people. And so, yeah, so I really call Dr. Craig a hero of mine. I don't use those words lightly, but he is. I mean, I'm just grateful for him.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. And so for me, still disagreeing with him, to disagree with him is not like an easy thing to do. I need to know why. Why do I disagree with him? Why, like, his model of the Trinity, Cerberus. It's like, I don't like that, but why do I not like that? And can I put it in a way that I wouldn't be embarrassed if I met him and he asked me about it? Right. That's a huge task, like really big, but it also helps me in my own theology and my own philosophy, even to battle with him on, in my head or in the shower or whatever, when I'm thinking through arguments. But it's so great. So he's a huge help to the kingdom, man. Seriously.
Yeah. No, and that's everybody. I mean, you can find everybody that disagrees with your position. And so I agree with you. I mean, it's really is humbling, and it's humbled me in everything, right? So whether it's my political discourse, whether I'm talking philosophy, apologetics, even talking football, right? It's like, okay, I always try to preface this, and it's because of guys like that maybe I disagree with. I preface this with, like, listen, I'm coming in humble, like this is what I think, but I know, I know I'm willing to change my mind. I'm open to counter ideas, right? It really is a humbling experience. So the great parallel for me was jiu-jitsu, right? So I retired from the NFL, and the two things I started right up were my academic career and jiu-jitsu.
Dude, I did not know that.
Yeah, everybody talked about the jiu-jitsu, and I knew I was going to need something physical and competitive, something that mimicked football. And
you can do jiu-jitsu forever. I mean, you're not going to blow out your knees probably. And
well, that's the beauty of it too, right? It's really low impact, and so that's a big win, because my body can only handle so much right now with all the beating it's taken from football. And so, I go and go to one of the local MMA clubs and get in with those guys, and I'm doing jujitsu. I'm 320 pounds. I mean, I just retired, so I'm a big guy, NFL lineman. Yeah. And I have guys that are 198 pounds, and they're beating the tar out of me, like pulling me down, tapping me out. Damn. I mean, just incredibly humbling. And so, geez, Parker, it's been 5 years now, and I still stink. I still get killed on the back all the time. And it was the same thing with philosophy, right? The same thing with my academic career. It's like I had all these hard, strong positions, and you read some William Lane Craig books, and you think you know what you're talking about, and then you get smoked from people on the same team, right? Not even but just people on your team. You are. So I love that. I'm like you. I think you said this earlier. It's like I like being humbled. I like that masochistic, like, yeah, give it to me, beat me down. Like, I want to get better. And sports teaches you that, right? The more you get beat down, the harder it is, the harder you make practice, the harder you make training, the easier the game is going to be.
Yeah.
So bring it, let's bring it. Let's get better. And so I'm with you. I like that.
Well, dude, so that was a huge game changer for me in college, actually. So when I gave my life to Christ and realized, like, everything I do is for him. He made me, all the breath in my lungs, everything. But that also means he made me to wrestle at some level. Like, I'd wrestled D1, like that means that my body is meant to do this at some level. I wasn't the best or anything, but then doing that let me have this freedom to actually, before it was ego. I wanted to be the biggest, strongest, toughest dude. I wanted every girl to just be drooling over me. I wanted to be like this Adonis. And then just giving that up and be like, dude, whatever God wants. If that means, and I ended up losing my starting position my senior year to a sophomore who was just smoked me in front of it. He teched me. It's you win by 15 in front of all of my friends and family. And it was terrible. But for me, it was like, all right, man, that's what God wants. That's what's up. Like, I didn't sandbag or anything. But that was my favorite year of wrestling because I didn't have this ego and I would get taken down in practice. And I was just laughing because I'm like, all right, there's another chance to get better, And then the same thing with God moving me then into apologetics and philosophy. It wasn't an ego thing. Thank God, man, because it could have totally been. if someone's pointing something out to me, I get excited about it because I'm like, okay, let's see now.
Right.
That's one more thing I don't have to be as wrong about if I can work through this.
Oh,
And,
yeah, it totally gives you that freedom, right? That recognition, and again, it's cliche, but it's so true. Like you're performing for an audience of one.
Yeah.
So whether it be on the mats, on the field, with philosophy, with jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, I'm putting it all in. I'm working my tail off. I'm giving it everything I got for one, because I know he's given me the time here to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He's brought me this far to do it, and so I want to do it the best for him.
Yeah.
And it's not always, I say that it's not always easy, right?
No.
I mean, performing at the highest level, it can be tough. But it allows you that freedom to just let it rip. Just let it rip. Get after it. And if things don't turn out well, I had the same sort of thing happen my last year in the NFL. I lost my starting job to a younger player who was just a lot better, and I knew it was coming. I mean, he was just so good, and I was not that good, and I knew he was going to take my job. But yet, still, I had the most fun that year, my last year. I mean, if you look at that picture you have in the background, that's me dancing after a sack. Like prior to this year, I never would have danced after a sack. It allowed me time to take a step back, to be humbled. Right, I was 8 years the starter. Now I'm no longer the starter. Right, I have to play the bench. And so when I got out there, I was like, all right, this is where God has me. I'm going to go out here and have fun when I have the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I went out there and all the plays, I'm dancing and running around. And so there are a lot of guys that I've seen that haven't had that foundation, that haven't had that freedom in Christ. And it's been career ending, right? They can't bounce back. They can't bounce back from the loss because whatever it is, that has become sort of their idol, their God. And once their God is gone or is injured or isn't where it was, it's hard for them to bounce back, especially guys who retire, right? I mean, you got to look at the divorce rates and the rates of people going bankrupt, former players. I mean, after 3 years, it's a crazy high number. 70-80% of players are broken, divorced within 3 years of retiring from the NFL.
Yeah.
And it really is because they don't have that freedom. They don't have that rock. They don't have that. Their identity is over. And I can speak firsthand because I know how tough it is, because I paid it lip service, but then when I got done with football, I realized, man, football was much more my identity than I thought, and Christ was not as much of my identity as I originally thought. And so all that to say, you're totally right, and that freedom in Christ makes for an incredibly joyful life.
Yeah, amen, man. Okay, so you go to Houston Baptist. You're studying apologetics. Did you go and get a master's in philosophy, or did you jump right to a PhD?
So I got my master's in apologetics from Houston Baptist, and then I went and got my master's in philosophy from the University of Edinburgh.
Okay. Was that online, or did you go out there?
Yeah, all of this was distance programs, which was fantastic. I mean, just thank God for the internet, right? Because with the kids and everything, there was no way I was going to be able to pick up and move. And I'm in northern Maine, right? I mean, there isn't many options for schools up here. So I did all that online, and then I just started my PhD program at the University of Birmingham this fall. And so the two programs really got me ready. I wasn't ready after Houston Baptist, especially not having any background. I went to I got my undergrad in accounting, and I hadn't been to school for 10 years. And so I wasn't ready, as well as Houston Baptist prepared me. I wasn't ready to go for a PhD yet. So it was great to be able to go to Edinburgh, get that second master's, refine sort of the tools, get more practice, get on the mats more,
right.
Throw my ideas out there against some people who disagreed, right? So now I'm on the discussion boards and dealing with other students who don't agree with me, whereas at Houston Baptist, everybody's pretty much on the same team. And so that refined, my talents, allowed me to learn how to respond to objections better. And so those, I'm incredibly grateful for my time at Houston Baptist and my time at Edinburgh. I mean, I met some incredible scholars. Obviously, one of my best friends, Tyler McNabb, who has been a mentor to me ever since. Great teachers, great professors, and a lot of great students and friends. And so I really enjoyed those 4 years doing my graduate programs.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm working on 2 degrees here at TEDS, and then Lord willing, I'll be going on to a master's in philosophy, and then following in your footsteps there, going to PhD. So your work, you're just starting your program, or you just started your program, and I think you said you're going to be working on like foreknowledge, God's
Yeah,
foreknowledge and free will. Is that right?
that's right. Yeah, the problem of divine foreknowledge and human freedom. And what a talk about humbling. You
Yeah.
look at literature. I mean, I know you know it, but I wish I could turn this thing around so you could see all the papers I've been. I mean, it's just the literature on this issue. How much has been devoted by incredible. I mean, you're talking Kevin Timpey and Patrick Todd and John Martin Fisher and Dirk Perrin. I mean, you're talking about all stars that have devoted so much time to trying to resolve this issue or providing, thought on this issue. It's just, it can be overwhelming at times. I'm like, wow, I can't, when am I ever going to bring to the table with this?
Well, you're going to put the final nail in the coffin there. Aren't you going to solve it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I hope so. We'll see. That's the goal, right? But
Yeah.
we'll see, because with the difference, what I've noticed I had much more talent with football. I don't have that much talent with academic my academic career. I'm not I don't have as much natural ability. I'm not naturally a smart person. So we're gonna see if hard work can close the gap. And now everything in my life has shown me that hard work can close the gap.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can't figure out something, if I have to get up at 2:30 in the morning to do it, to figure it out, if that's the amount of time I need, then let's do it.
Dude, that gets me so fired up. I love that.
It's like, let's go. And I love it. I know you're wired the same way, right? It's like, let's get after it. Let's see if
I'm just gonna do it, like, with the Lord's help, for sure. But like, yeah, if I have to get up, if I have to set an alarm, if I have to put my phone away in 2 hours, I have to read this paper and read it again because I don't get it. It's going to happen. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I love it, Parker. That's exactly right. And that's what makes it fun, right? That I don't want to go. Like, I know I heard somebody say this once. I think it makes a lot of sense. They said, if you know you're winning, if you are mad, you have to go to bed at night because you just want to be doing the work that you're doing. And that's how I feel. Like, I'm disappointed when I have to go to sleep because I just want to be doing, I just want to be studying and working on my PhD and learning about, the foreknowledge and freedom problem and all the different things that come along with that. And so I go to bed and, like, all right, I'm set the alarm and let's go to bed quick. It's like Christmas morning every morning because I can't wait to get up and work.
That's awesome, dude. I know that feeling well. I've actually had to, like, confess that to the Lord and try to work on that and, like, recognize my creatureliness, that I need to go to sleep, because I would just drink coffee and be like, I'll go to bed at 3 and then wake up at 6 or whatever. And be like, that's not healthy. But exactly what you're saying, where it's like, I just want to work on this stuff. I want to figure it out. I just want to know. I just want to figure it out. Yeah.
You're right. And I feel like God's really put that there, right? I mean, God's put that drive there. And I know that for me. I know I never would be here if this wasn't what God had called me to. This is so far off anything I ever would have been interested in. So I really believe that this is God, taking me in this direction. And that's what gives you that joy, and it gives you that passion, right? Okay, God's brought me here. Let's go. Let's get it,
Well, dude, I think it's so funny to think back, think of Mike DeVito 15 years ago or 10 years ago and be like, hey, who is your, maybe not 10, maybe that's a little bit, we need to go longer, but who's your hero? Who do you look up to? And it would not be William Lane Craig. It would not be Dirk Perriboom. You wouldn't even know these guys. And now it's like, those are the ones, at least for me, like, meeting some of those guys in person, like meeting William Lane Craig would be pretty wild. It's like, oh, dude, hey, I've read this is crazy. Let's chop it up right now. Yeah. And like meeting an athlete's pretty cool. It's like, sweet, dude. Yeah, you're a great player. This is great. But I want to watch you play. I don't want to talk to you as much. Yeah, that's right. Like, I just want everything that you have. Put that in here for me.
Right. Yeah. I've had the opportunity to be around really cool people, right? Like, especially when I was with the Jets, always celebrities at the practice facilities. You're going out to dinners and doing different events with celebrities and sports stars, and you got the Yankees coming over. You got all these people, and it's cool, right? You're like, oh, I saw that guy in that movie, right? I saw that person in this movie or this commercial, or watched this guy play basketball. But I've never been starstruck like I've been starstruck when I met William Lane Craig. or Eric Wielenberg, or you meet these philosophers and you're just like, wow, I can't believe this, and I'm grateful for that, right? Those are the kind of people you want to emulate and look up to and try to be like,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm totally, I'm riding with you. I totally agree.
That's so funny. I saw Paul Gould was sitting over by the lagoon over here on campus last year, and I was just like, "That's Paul Gould," and I just like ran up to him like, "Excuse me, are you Paul Gould?" And like now we're friends and we text each other. And he sends me gifts all the time. It's just like that's someone that I emulate like on a personal level because he's a awesome father and everything. But then as a philosopher too, it's like, dude, I love this guy. I love the way he works.
Right.
And yeah, just God has totally changed my desires and my heroes, and it's so funny.
It's so cool. I can't go to a PPS meeting or an AAR meeting without like just totally drooling,
Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, so dude, why I'm sure you did know going in how big a field this is, how much work has been done. What I know that something had to make you do that. Like there was some kind of question in your head that made you want to work on freedom and foreknowledge. Like what was that? I don't know. I don't want to scoop you if you have like a special take on it or anything like that, but why go into that topic?
Yeah, I had so Tyler, my mentor, Tyler McNabb, he recommended it. We kind of were chopping it up and came up with an idea. And he came up with an idea and he said, bro, you need to pursue this and you need to do this for your PhD thesis, dissertation. And I'm like Tyler. Tyler sort of trained me up. So I'm much more comfortable with epistemology, right? I'm less comfortable with more metaphysical issues like this. And so this is certainly a challenge, right? It's certainly been a challenge, but I'm getting better at it. And the more and more I study it, the more I'm enjoying it, and the more I'm getting better at metaphysics. It reminded me, so when I first got in the NFL, I loved to play out of a right-handed stance. I didn't like to be on the right side of the ball because you had to switch hands, a left-hand stance, and I wasn't as comfortable with that. And my first couple of years, the defense we played in allowed me to just stay on the left side of the ball so I could put my right hand down. When Rex Ryan came to New York, the head coach came to New York in 2009, he switched the defense. And so now I had to play with my left hand. And it took some time, but I got better and better and better at it. And then I became incredibly comfortable in a left-handed stance. And that actually became an asset because, I could play both sides of the football. And so it's like, it reminds me a lot, to use the football analogy, it reminds me a lot of that, where it's like I became really comfortable with epistemology. And now the more and more I study metaphysics, the more I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting it. But, it takes that fight and that grind, but it's so rewarding. The more and more I pick up of it, like there's nothing better when I pick up a news article written by Patrick Todd and I read it 5 times and then finally I get it, right? I get to the end the 5th time, like, all right, I get it. It's taken me 2 months, but I figured this out.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. And it really is, like we've said, it's there's so much literature, it's such a deep problem. The thing that's unique about this problem, or somewhat unique, at least I haven't come across too many issues like this in philosophy, is the number of sort of philosophical disciplines that are implicated in the problem.
Yeah, it's really at the middle of the web there.
Yeah, you got like semantics and logic and time, right? You got metaphysics of time, you got divine attributes, you got the foreknowledge and free will, or the free will and determinism. That long debate is implicated in it. And so, it seems like there's so many angles to come up with a comprehensive solution. There's so many things you have to touch and be competent in and have an account of when you're formulating these solutions. And so that's also fun because I know, hey, when I get done with this, I'm praying and I'm working hard and the plan, the goal is to succeed. But let's say I fall short. I will become a better philosopher regardless, because this says I'm learning so many different, philosophical things, so many different philosophical issues because it's just the nature of the problem. And so it's a win right there. It's a win just to have to be dealing with an issue where so much is involved that you have to become competent in so many different areas. And that's going to make me a better philosopher.
Yeah. Well, so dude, you moved over to philosophy because you didn't want to have to deal with the absolutism of theology. And now you're right back to it though. Like you're going to have to talk about the nature of God and God's, freedom and his freedom, our freedom in light of that. So you're right back full circle. Is this a philosophy of religion degree, or is this a straight philosophy degree that's focusing on this problem?
Yeah, it would be just I think it's just a PhD in philosophy, right? But it would be special. So I guess when I put down sort of my area of specialization, it'd be philosophy of religion.
That's sweet. I think that's probably the best way to do it. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And my two supervisors, Nick Effingham and UC Sukinen, they're studs too. I mean, they just bring so much to the table. It's so humbling to sit down and do my meetings with them, and they're co-supervising the project and just get their expertise and their eyes on it. And again, it's like being in college and you finally get up to the pros, and now you're watching the pros practice and you're watching the pros play, and you're on the same field, right? And you're learning very similar, right? I'm engaging with, JC Beal, and I get to meet with him and talk with him about things. And he's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. I mean, just watching him work is incredible. And Nick and UC and those guys, obviously Tyler. And so everybody I've been reaching out to, Jamie Collin, so many great philosophers I've been reaching out to for help that I get to watch work now, not just read and read papers, but actually watch them get after it is really really a lot of fun.
That's so sweet. And it's kind of to go back to the football analogy, it's like going to the coach and you have your own little playbook and you're like, well, would this one work? And they're like, well, no, what are you doing? And the other one's like, oh, that's pretty good. And then when you get that recognition, you're like, yes, the coach said it was okay. I love that.
yeah, right. They're like, come here, Rook. Let me show you what you're doing wrong here. It's always so humbling when I've written a paper or I'm writing a rough draft and I have to send it to one of them to look at to sort of give me feedback. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry you have to read like graduate philosophy right now. These guys are operating at such a high level, and then they have to take so many steps down to read my junk. I feel bad. Well,
Yeah, totally. What's the goal, man? So I think you're probably, I mean, we're pretty similar where it's like, I would learn this stuff just to learn it because I want to know it. But is there an end goal? Like, do you want to teach? Would you like to be a philosophy professor or?
Yeah. It's hard. I love to teach. I've had the opportunity to teach before, both at the high school level, and I've actually, my friend up here at the college, a philosopher at the college up here at the University of Maine, allowed me to come in and do a guest lecture with his class. And I've had an opportunity to go there a couple times and do guest lectures. I love teaching. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. I enjoy talking about these ideas with students. And I wish somebody would have told me about philosophy when I was an undergrad.
Right.
You're almost proselytized for philosophy up, on the college level.
Right.
My thing is, right now, I would not get into teaching just because I couldn't justify it. When you look at the philosophy, the number of positions that are out there for philosophers, right? And this is assuming I would ever be good enough to get a teaching position. Yeah. Assuming that's the case, and obviously that's a long shot, I couldn't justify taking one. I've been so blessed with football to be able to have financial security to just kind of do school and do those things and not feel pressured to have to work or anything like that. I just couldn't justify taking a job from someone just to do it. And so the goal right now is just to be a great philosopher. That's be the best philosopher that I can be, and then however long that takes when I finish up my degree, if the market opens up and there are good positions and I'm good enough to get one, then so be it. But no pressure there. There's no pressure to get that. Really, my goal is to be respected by other philosophers. Of other philosophers to say, you know what, DeVito brings something to the table. Like his work, his work brings has brought value to the discipline. Yeah. To be respected by other philosophers, that's sort of the goal right now.
Yeah, be recognized as a fellow philosopher. Yeah, right. That's sweet too, because then you get to do some work without being beholden to your colleagues or worried about what they're going to say, worried about a tenure track. That sounds like a pretty sweet place to be, actually. I can't help but say that. Can I see your tattoo on your right arm there? Is that planning?
Yes. So this is my favorite argument from the philosophy of religion. The more I study, the more I realize how much planning has done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing when you see the sort of the paradigm shifting work he's done in basically everything, right? Modal logic, epistemology on top. I mean, he's just changed the game in so many areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the first premise of his evolutionary argument against naturalism.
Yeah.
So it's so good.
It's so awesome.
I had to get it.
I love that, man. Yeah, dude, God made us pretty similar here in some ways. So I have my favorite argument. It's Van Til's argument. I think, therefore I am, and so it's I think, therefore ehyeh. So if I'm able, my thought presupposes the existence of God or presupposes God's rationality.
That's fantastic. That's so funny. We're wired the same way, partner.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm not done, right? I'm looking
Right.
through the books, like, all right, what other arguments are awesome? Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
you know?
That's so funny. I think for Christmas, I'm gonna get I might get like Wittgenstein's a duck rabbit on my hand.
Yeah.
I got all these symbols and stuff. Yeah, that's so good.
So I'm gonna get. I have a lined up. But the next tattoo is. So I have this one. It says. I don't know if you can see. It says Tolle Lege.
Yeah. Read. Is that?
Yeah. And then I'm gonna get. I love Camus, and so I'm gonna get that poster right there, the Sisyphus poster.
Oh, sweet, dude.
Get that.
You are Sisyphus. That's fantastic.
I relate so much to that story, and so I was like, oh, got to get that one too.
I can't imagine Tyler being okay with that though, with him being such an analytic snob.
Oh, with the continental stuff.
Yeah.
Cool tattoos, but yeah, no, he's on me for reading Camus. And half the stuff I don't understand, right? You read Sartre, you read Camus, and you're like, I don't really know what they're saying, but I just know it's awesome.
There's probably something there. Yeah.
It's so great. It's so above me, but it's so cool.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks so much for this time, man. I would love to do it again and chop it up with you, talk more on as you're reading through some more freedom and foreknowledge stuff. That'd be fantastic. Talk more. I love your perspective, especially since it's so similar to mine, man.
Yeah, man, this has been great. I really appreciate you having me on. I love your what you're doing, your show. I mean, I was kind of nervous because I'm thinking, boy, I hope he doesn't ask me too many technical questions because I'm going to look like an idiot in front of everybody. You've had all the big wigs on here. So
no, you crushed it, man. You got the tattoo on your arm. That was gold.
Yeah. But yeah, no, let's do it again. And hopefully I got some of these essays in the works under review. And so once I get some of these published, maybe we can come on and talk about getting the weeds a little bit more.
That would be so fantastic. Yeah, I would love that. And that's one of my goals here is just there's so many smart Christian dudes out there, and not even like it doesn't all have to be Christian. I have non-Christians on, but so many smart people that are experts. I think everyone's probably an expert in something. We spend so much of our time doing stuff. Right. There's people who are experts in stuff that we just need to get out there. Let's just think about this. Like
I love it.
You did all this work, and let's talk. So actually, I wanted to plug your YouTube channel before we go. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing over there?
Yeah, so we're trying to keep up with you. You've done an incredible job. But Tyler and I started a podcast. YouTube type is really on YouTube now. We got to get it on Apple, but it's called Furthering Christendom. And the idea is basically to do what you're doing, right? To interview really bright, really smart Christian philosophers. And we've had the opportunity to have some really cool guests on. The premise, the thing we're going for, and sort of maybe the nuance and what we're trying to bring to the table is, we said, you know what? Let's not dumb it down at all. Like, not dumb it down. I don't mean to say it like that, but let's not work into the issues. Like, let's just jump in. Let's get to the front lines of what's going on, and let's just start talking. And so what you'll notice is because of that, Tyler does most of the talking. An outro, and that's about it. But the stuff is really, really high level. And we try to keep it high level. Not many definitions or working into topics. It's like, all right, let's jump in the deep end right away. And so it's been fun. And so what I've loved about it is we've had great viewership, especially for a new podcast. But the thing I really like about it is I go back and listen to them. Yeah. Right? I go back. Well, wait, what did Jerry Walls say here? And so I'll go back and listen and I've gotten a ton out of it. And so it really has helped me grow. So not only are we getting to put a good product out there, I think, but it's something that even if one person listened to it, it'll be me because I really enjoy listening to the conversation and
That's
learning and
hilarious.
growing. And so,
Dude, I do the exact
yeah,
same thing. Last night I was listening to my conversation with Guillaume Bignon because I'm writing a paper or my master's thesis, and I actually needed what he said. I needed it. So
yeah,
listening back to it, it's so funny. And sometimes my wife will catch me and she's like, "Oh yeah, you listen to something good there?" And it's like, yeah. Like, sorry, I record it for myself mostly. I'm my main audience.
yeah, yeah. The host is a really good looking guy. You won't believe it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, dude, thanks again. I'll put a link when this comes out. I'll put a link to Furthering Christendom. I suggest all everyone listening to this, you guys are gonna like their stuff too. It's so fantastic. Dude, I would love if we ever can get together. If this COVID thing ever ends, I would love to roll with you sometime. That'd be fantastic, man.
That would be great. You would kick my butt, Parker.
I don't know.
I'd be whooped, brother. I feel. Get you some confidence, especially if you've had some off days or something. Let me go beat up the NFL guy real quick.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well,
thanks
dude,
for having me on.
Yeah,
Really
thanks for coming. This has been fantastic. So we could talk about this more, and Lord willing, we're going to someday soon. But for now, it's going to have to do it. This has been Parker's Pensies, and all